What is up, guys? It's LS7 Devin, and this is the Speed Beast YouTube channel, and today we're going to be installing headers on my C6 ZO6. First thing we're going to do is disconnect the battery, disconnect the positive and the negative, because we're going to be taking off the O2 sensor and we don't want to throw any codes. Next, we're going to remove all 8 ignition wires and spark plugs. So you pop these off right here on the top. No, that wasn't good. So yeah, first you kind of want to give them a wiggle, because you're not just going to be able to pull them out. There's no way. This just kind of helps break all that corrosion free. This tool right here seems to be, if you have one of these, I know they have a special tool, but this seems to be working pretty good. Kind of just put it on there, and then you use a pry bar. Pop it right out. Oh shit. No, I took out all the ignition wires and spark plugs and I put them in a piece of cardboard and numbered them because I want to put everything back the way it came. Look at this one. Fucking nothing left. Like, look at that gap. That's ridiculous. Like, look at this one. Look at the difference. So I definitely need spark plugs. What is up, guys? It's the next day. Now we got those spark plugs and wires out of the way, so we got ourselves some clearance. It's probably not a bad idea to put some WD-40 on these because they're going into aluminum. But next, let's take the O2 sensors out under the car. Okay, there are 4 O2 sensors you need to take out. One right here, and then one on this side. Right there, I already took it out. Then there's 2 back here. One right there. And one right there. So that one right there is the plug you gotta undo. Right there on the driver's side and on the passenger side. It's the rear one. It's kind of hard to get to, but I wasn't even able to film it, but that's what it is. Just plug in your extension harness and you'll be good to go. So it actually looks like we gotta take this Xpipe off before I can take those O2 sensors off. So there's some bolts right here. 4 bolts. And there's clamps in the rear. And then right here, there's these 2 spring bolts. They got springs connected to them. Got to loosen those. And then we'll take the Xpipe out. Next, we're going to drain the oil. There's 2 drain bolts. They're 13 millimeters. One's right here draining and the other one's right here. Then you got to take your oil filter off. So we're going to let this drain. Next, we're going to remove these 2 lines because we need to take them out to get to the header. Now there's O-rings in here that are very important. If you don't put these O-rings in right, you'll lose all your oil pressure. So this is very important. You don't break those O-rings. I'm guessing these are the O-rings, and they're both still intact. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a bag over this so it doesn't drip on me. Can I do one of these things? And then GM gives you this little access hole right here to get to the one that's really hard to get to. Probably can't see it from there, but... Alright guys, sorry my phone died there. We're back at it now. I got both sides of the headers off. Yeah, this was tricky. The hardest part is getting that one bolt through the access hole. The rest is pretty easy. Now for our next step, we're gonna plug in... There's a trash guy. We gotta plug in these extension harnesses for the O2 sensors. Alright boys, now we got both O2 extension harnesses plugged in. We got one right there and one right there. Now it's time to put the headers in. Alright boys, for this part you're going to have to cut the starter. There's like a plastic guard that goes around the starter. You're going to need to cut that with like a die grinder or a cutoff wheel, or like some sharp scissors and like some sort of grinder if you don't got anything. And then also I would say don't wrap the headers because it makes them that much harder to fit. I would get them coated. Then there's a company that does it. I think it's called Jet Coats. And then I'm gonna have to do here is I'm gonna have to get all that wiring harness. There's like a lot of wiring harness kind of in the way. You need to like really push that with quite a lot of force to tuck that out of the way. And then you also have the new O2 extensions that you're plugging in. You have to find places to secure those. And here I am tightening up the header bolts. Make sure you tighten these from the inside out. Like start with the center header bolts in the middle and then work your way out when tightening them to the torque spec. I just did hand tight and then snug them up real good, but I don't know the torque spec. 30, I don't know, somewhere between there. And that's probably pretty important because it could pull on your head. So I probably should have torqued those. And as you can see, on the driver's side, there's oil cooler lines that touch the headers. The fitment on these were horrible. And then, as you can see on the passenger side, in the next slide, on the other side of the headers, the trans cooler lines are hitting. So we have oil cooler lines hitting and trans cooler lines touching the headers. So I highly recommend you get DEI, like the sleeve I put on the first one on both of them, and then buy a bunch of their tape, and then get your headers coated because the fitment on these are honestly horrible. They say it's good, but it's not. Next, connect the headers to the catback. There's 4 bolts. Got them all tightened right now. And also reinstall your dry sump oil lines. Snug those up hand tight, or snug those up really good. Tighten all your band clamps for your exhaust. There's 2 right here, and then there's 2 back here. 1 right there, 1 right there. Next, you gotta tighten both your spring bolts. There's 1, and there's 2. Snug those up really good. Reinstall the starter. Take note of all these bolts running down your like tunnel for your drive shaft. You go all the way down here. So what I had to do, because the O2 sensor is well, it looks like it's actually starting to burn, so good thing I caught that. Uh-oh, that's what I was smelling earlier. How bad is that? It's pretty fucking bad. Yeah, I'm gonna add another one, so make sure you add a bunch of these things, like little tie downs to those bolts. I bolted it there, I bolted it there, and I'm gonna add another bolt right there so that doesn't happen again. And I also did it for this side, because if not, that's what's gonna happen. So good thing I caught that. Once you got all that done, just do a once over on everything and make sure all your bolts are tight one more time. Just double check everything, but as long as you do that, you should be pretty good and pretty safe. And now that it's all secured, we gotta go fill it up with oil. Now, if you can see in there, look how close those spark plugs are to the headers. I mean, the clearance there is not much. Maybe 1/4 of an inch. So what I had to do is I had to get that metal thing that goes around it and put a little bend in it when I took them out. So I took them out, bent that metal thing, and was able to get the factory plugs back in. If not, you'd have to upgrade to aftermarket ones to fit these, because fitment's horrible. And then the obvious, reconnect the battery. And that's all I've got for this one, guys. If you got some knowledge out of this, please smash that subscribe button. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.